welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. I'm here with Shira, who's part of Quackalope, and Dale, the casual gamer. We just got finished with our first dive into Nemesis Lockdown. Now, for context and for caveats, this is going to be a first impressions video for all of us. We've both played Nemesis Lockdown twice.
This is my second time.
Maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Me when it was a prototype on TTS. Shira has played
regular Nemesis, but not Lockdown.
Nemesis competitive once, and now Lockdown competitive once. So keep that in context. And along with that, just so you know, this is in no way, shape, or form a sponsored video. However, we do a lot of work with Awaken Realms. So please keep that in mind as I particularly talk about the game. Dale, you don't have a relationship with Awaken Realms?
No, I don't.
But he does his own content over on Dale the Casual Gamer. You can check out his channel, which focuses a lot on solo games and Marvel Champions, which we've done a lot of gameplays of. And
what? Me?
Shira's here. So I think I need to start off the conversation here. And then we'll dive into our first impressions. Because there's one important note that the audience, if they've been following my coverage of Nemesis, they're going to know a few things. I have been historically not a fan of Nemesis. I don't love the competitive mode of Nemesis. I've played it a dozen times, diving into various different player counts and scenarios, and I haven't found the competitive mode to be something that I have enjoyed playing while I have won and lost and had the whole swing of events. I think it's a highly thematic game, but it's not always been right for me. I have been super excited about Nemesis Lockdown. From the time I played the prototype, from the very beginning, I've told people that Nemesis is not right for me, but I think Lockdown will be. Since then, if you're following on the channel, my friend and I discovered that there is a version of Nemesis that is a 5 out of 5 for me. That is the Untold Stories, the cooperative 2-player campaign mode. I loved that. However, we went back and we played regular Nemesis, still combative, still head-to-head, and it wasn't an experience that I really want to revisit. Nemesis Lockdown, for me, is doing what I expected it to do when it comes to re-implementing the system in a way that made me feel like I had more agency over the board state. I had more control over being cooperative or semi-cooperative, and I like the puzzle that we're solving here more. There's more pathways to escape. There's more control over flicking lights on and off, dispelling noise. The board doesn't just escalate into a cosmic mess of, well, chaos, and I think it balances the thematics with the mechanics engine really well. That being said, it is still a game that will rip victory from you by sheer force, which is not always right for people. As far as my current state of things is, don't think this is a perfect game. I still need to play Untold Stories. This may and probably will be a 5 out of 5 for me when it comes to Untold Stories, but core Nemesis Lockdown for me has not been a disappointment. I'm enjoying diving into it. I don't know that I want to play at higher player counts, but I really do like the added control that they've had here. So Nemesis, base game for me, on one condition is a perfect game, but on every other condition is like a 2 out of 5. Like, I never want to play base game regular Nemesis again. I've tried cooperative, tried so many different variations. This is going to be right at like a 3.5, 4 out of 5 for me. I'm really liking what the system is doing, with the caveat that sometimes people get eliminated, sometimes it runs a little bit too long, so on and so forth. So there's my initial impressions, and now for the rest of the video, I'm really curious to hear what both of you, because we started filming this immediately after finishing our gameplay.
Yes.
So I'm curious. Dale, I want to start with you. Expectations or history with Nemesis, and what is Lockdown doing for you? Is it a better system? Is it a worse? So on and so forth.
So the original Nemesis I played probably half a dozen times, always cooperative.
Okay, so never semi-cooperative.
Right, and I played it solo, 3, 4, and I think 5 players.
Do you like it solo?
No, not at all.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, it was nice to learn the game, but other than that, yeah, it's not a game I would play solo. But cooperatively, I loved it. I mean, the alien theme, and even, I like the higher player count. I like that better.
I find sometimes it takes a little bit longer than I want it to.
It was a longer game, and we had 2 new people, 3 people that kind of knew what was going.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was probably a 4-hour game.
Okay.
But we had fun the whole time, because we were trying to cooperatively do all our objectives, cheering each other on.
Yep.
You know, and that's the big thing about this. If you're with the right people that are okay with getting beat up, I mean, no one died quick. It took a while for someone that died. We were near at the end anyway. So if someone would have died first, we'd have probably quit and picked up. So that's a huge down for this game. but it can happen.
Yeah.
But you just either someone they go in and play a different game if there's other game groups around, or pick up and start over again.
Sure.
But I've had a blast with it co-op.
What was your original impression of Nemesis, base Nemesis?
I think it's very much group dependent on the player group that you're playing. I played semi-cooperative the first time, and some members of the group weren't that into it, and so it kind of diminished the experience a bit. I felt like the game was very challenging and punishing, not for the sake of having fun, but for the sake of being challenging and punishing. And those aren't qualities in a game that I personally like. I like games where you can feel powerful and are doing cool actions and have wow moments, not where you feel crushing defeat around every corner and like the ceiling is just coming in on top of you and you can't escape. Dirt keeps piling and you're in a trample mudslide. Mm-hmm. So,
Nemesis Lockdown. What do we think? What do we think of the system? Comparing it back to the original Nemesis, some of the changes that they've made are going to be things like sound, the elevator, some of the item decks and character cards will be a little bit more asymmetric. What are we thinking?
I've only played this game, twice now, and both times have been semi-co-op.
Yep.
And I'm still not a fan of that.
You don't like semi-co-op?
I don't. I think the game is hard enough as it is. You don't need to be questioning, is this person trying to kill me? Mm-hmm. Are they going to help me?
Or is this person even incentivized for me to be around?
Yeah.
Like I think that's one of the differences. Like in the game we just played, it wasn't that I was working against you. My objective was complete. My objective for is to search all of these rooms and make sure that I've activated my knowledge token. Mm-hmm. I wasn't anti you, but we were playing semi-co-op, so I didn't know if you wanted me dead, and I didn't care if you were alive or dead. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the weird part for me, where it's already punishing, and you get everyone in the game is like, I could help you, or I could just do my own thing and try to make it.
Yeah. I don't think semi-cooperative is the mode for me. I think if I was ever going to dive into Nemesis again, it would have to be cooperative with a story-based mode. I think that could help balance it and feeling like there's a united sense of camaraderie, whether you succeed or fail. I think just going at it and feeling like you're alone, which is very thematic. I have to give Nemesis credit. It is very thematic, but back to the original question of what Lockdown is doing differently, they felt the same to me. I didn't feel any tangible differences playing the semi-cooperative mode between base Nemesis and Lockdown. They both just feel defeating.
They do feel defeating.
They both have player elimination, which is also not a game mechanic that I like. I don't like when a player has to just sit on the side for the next 45 minutes in a game. I like the game to end at that moment.
For me, I've tried it multiple times, so many times, and I just don't think semi-co-op is the way for me to experience these games. The thing that I liked about Untold Stories is that me and West at the time were completely on a team, working together, and the game was evolving as we played, meaning we'd do 3 turns, exploring a section, accomplishing a mission, and then a new card or a new story event would flip, and suddenly there's a creature here or a beast here, we have to make it to another part of the ship, and it's beat by beat. And in this emergent storytelling game, one of the most thematic games I've played with insane production quality, I find that works really well. But semi-co-op, it's player elimination. It's how grueling and brutal the game already is. It's the fact that your win condition is ultimately uncontrollable. Contamination, you can never check for every variable there.
Yeah.
Rocket launcher, the thing, getting shot out, moving out into the dust, knowing what the different squad is going to come down, who they're going to murder at the very end of the game, mixed in with the contamination cards you have, or what you're going to roll when it comes to movement or silence. You have a really cool thematic story, but ultimately very little control over the final knell of the game, which I think oftentimes for me is anticlimactic. Whether I win or lose, it just doesn't. It paints a cool picture. It doesn't paint a cool game for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, for the semi-co-op, it's we all have our own things. And, I mean, that was just luck. It's not like you planned to get on the right pod. It was it's either the right pod, you had a 1 in 5 chance.
1 in 4.
Yep, and it worked. Whereas I had to kill the queen or blow up the place, but the whole time I'm getting locked behind doors. all these other monsters are coming out. It's not the one I need to defeat.
Mine is I had to send a signal, and when every time I was in the room with the signal, there was someone there, so I couldn't send it. I had no weapons, and then I either had to have the facility be destroyed or the nest must be destroyed. And halfway through, we realized that I could have shot up the nest while I was in it. I mean, not that I had anything to shoot with, but
Sure.
I didn't know. I thought I had to manually take out every egg, which is what I was trying to do, and drop it off in a room with fire so that it would. So it was just a very lengthy process in a board that is very hard to maneuver around.
I was going to try to set the if you'd thrown your grenade in the nest, you would have possibly blown it all up, I think.
I might have.
Because I think it hits everything for 1 damage.
If I would have set it off with me in the room, I would have taken a damage, and I probably would have died. Because
But I played the game co-op where we had to get all the eggs out, and that's tough still. So for one person, they have to take out 5 eggs, and I know some things will bring in more eggs. It's kind of, that's why I like the camaraderie.
Should have kept my other one, which is have player 3 die.
And mine was to have player 2 die.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah.
You two would have been so successful.
Dead. Successful and dead.
Yeah, I do like Lockdown significantly more than I like base Nemesis, though.
I don't know. To me, they're both 2 out of 5s.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I'd almost rather go with the base. I mean, I like what they've done with some other things of different ways to go out, different ways to escape. But to me, I think it adds some complexity you don't need. It's probably, if you do like the semi-co-op, it gives you more options to get out of the base. So I think if you like that style, it might be better. But yeah, I like the base version co-op, full co-op.
The most. I'm going to stick with what I've said. There's a version of Nemesis that is an insanely amazing game.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll be...
It's the narrative. No,
Try it.
I would love to dive into even base Nemesis. I would love to play through the storytelling sessions that I did with West with you, just to show you how that experience diverges from this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed hearing the stories, and as I was editing them, I thought they were really cool. And I think the narrative, as just reading even the flavor text in the beginning of our gameplay was very, very creative and in-depth and detailed, and it really pulls you in, and you really feel like you're on Mars and you just got stranded there. I was playing as a lab rat, and I had already been a survivor of Nemesis, and it was I wanted to do better than I did, and it's hard.
You don't like games that you don't feel like you can win.
Yeah,
that's a big thing. Consistently, you want a game that gives you the promise of victory.
Correct. Yeah. I want it to feel challenging, but I also want winning to be possible. Because it's funny, because one of my favorite games is Zombicide, and because the game group I played with, we intentionally make it harder. I had never won, but there was always the promise. It always felt possible. So...
Whereas here we're just running around with monsters, because you'd leave a room to try to get away and it would follow you.
Yeah, I'd
and
leave
that happened to you twice.
It happened to me so many times, and I had no weapon. I used my one grenade, and every time I was trying to search, I was in a room either I couldn't search or,
It's so hard to find ammo to get something to fight with.
I sacrificed my first turn when I had my first 2 search cards to go and do the power for you guys, and that I could have searched twice on that turn and have gotten maybe something that would have set the whole game differently.
We really appreciated that power.
Oh yeah, you guys both survived so well.
No, I did.
No, you didn't.
I had
so that's the other thing, the point that you pointed out, that the luck component of it is huge. You can never be sure that you won.
Yeah, there's no way to fully control for a victory. You can control for a lot of variables.
Right. And slowly but surely, as I evolve in my gaming experience, I'm noticing that I don't like it when that level of randomness is in play. I like it when there's dice rolls. I do. I love checking dice. I like randomness with dice, but I like mitigation. I like feeling like I had a chance to change the outcome, and not that the game had already determined the outcome for me and I was just going along for the ride and seeing what happened.
I think you can control some variables. The thing for me, again, with this is, while I don't enjoy that in actual game, I do find that, if we're going to go tell a story about a game we just played, me surviving every last little leaving both of you behind and running to a pod and it being completely bloody and gory and it's shooting off and then one little worm I see it pop out of my nipple. That is a great story.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that you want to I think people that sit down and play Nemesis, they leave with that narrative and their game group keeps echoing that narrative time and time again. The next time they sit down, they're you better check those contamination cards. that's the thing that people fall in love with.
Yeah, before I dived into my first gameplay, base Nemesis, people were saying that Nemesis is an experience more so than a game. And
I was saying that. I got a lot of flack for saying that.
Yeah, people. I said people were saying it.
I got a lot of flack for making a video that the title was completely it was confirmation bias though.
Yeah.
So one video that was entirely positive, one video that was entirely negative. And the entirely positive was it's one of the best, most thematic games I've ever played. And the entire negative was it is an experience, it is not a board game.
Yeah.
It's like watching a movie unfold in front of you. It's just you're controlling the pawns and the pieces and, and the way it twists.
But you're not really controlling them. You're just moving them physically.
Of course it's a board game.
Yes.
Of course it's a board game. But the point of that was to say that it's not the agency that people tend to have. It's not the control that people like to have.
It is not a Euro.
It doesn't give you a solvable puzzle all the time. Sometimes it just gives you a puzzle that's fun to watch.
Yeah, and after, I don't know how long her game was, but after
about
3 hours.
About 3 hours.
It's kind of like...
I just wanted to end, just put me out of my misery a bit at that point.
Yeah, and like I said, you went out for a while and had to watch.
Yeah, I was out for the last...
30 minutes.
You stopped, and then I had to do... I could have quit.
3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, I tried to go as quick as I could.
While you got pummeled.
Yeah. I went after the queen, and this is what happened.
Yep. Yeah. Either way, that's our first impressions, first thoughts, initial opinions on Nemesis Lockdown. I am sure I will be doing a full right for you, wrong for you review that gives it a more fair and accurate breakdown of all the pieces. And I also plan on comparing Lockdown to base Nemesis so that you all can see why I think Lockdown is a stronger title in the series and why I think it's an amazing iteration on the core system. Whether or not that core system is right for you is something you'll have to decide. Whatever the case.
Whatever you do.
Thanks for watching.
Notes. Remember to do the important things.
We'll see you next time.
Get out and play some games. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Who's Tom?
No idea.
Okay.
Assume there's a guy watching.
At this point in the video? No.